Delhi, 2018. The Bhatia family was known by almost everyone in their Sant Nagar neighborhood. They ran a successful grocery store, their business was thriving, and they were universally liked. But on the morning of July 1st, their usually punctual shops stayed shuttered past opening time. Concerned neighbors went upstairs to the family's home to check on them. When they finally pushed the front door open, they found all 11 members of the family dead inside. 10 people were hanging by their necks from an iron mesh grille in the ceiling. The eldest member, the grandmother, was lying lifeless on the floor in the next room. The brutality of the scene stood in stark contrast to the family's reputation. They were a cheerful, highly functional household without a single known enemy, leaving the community in a state of total shock. The physical layout of the room pointed to something highly methodical. Every victim was blindfolded, their hands were bound, and the bodies were arranged in an identical, organized pattern. Despite the appearance of a mass murder, investigators working behind the police tape found zero evidence of a break-in or any defensive struggle. A targeted hit requires a motive, yet the Bhatias had a flourishing business and excellent community ties. Their profile was the opposite of a family in trouble. With the doors locked from the inside and the family appearing content to the outside world, investigators were left with a terrifying void. They now had to figure out exactly what force could compel 11 people to act in such perfect, lethal unison. Investigators eventually discovered a collection of notebooks hidden inside the home. These diaries contained years of meticulous, bizarre instructions that had been kept secret from the outside world. The focus of the case shifted from a physical crime to a psychological one. The journals revealed a single central figure behind the writings, Lalit Bhatia, the family's youngest son. Years earlier, following the sudden death of the family patriarch, Lalit had undergone a profound and unchecked psychological alteration. This timeline maps the death of the patriarch to a sharp increase in Lalit's journal entries. He developed a conviction that his deceased father was using him as a vessel to deliver instructions, dictating the family's every move from beyond the grave. One man's unprocessed grief created an alternate reality, one that would eventually consume the minds of everyone living in the household. Inside the house, Lalit's daily dictates gradually transformed from odd requests into unquestionable laws. This slow psychological conditioning meant his personal visions eventually became the shared reality of the entire group. The diaries promised that performing these increasingly extreme rituals would grant the family moksha, or spiritual salvation, while ensuring their continued prosperity. Over an 11-year period, the family's deep-rooted cultural and emotional trust in Lalit successfully overrode their individual survival instincts. This was a willing surrender of rationality, driven by blind faith. The family was not being held by physical force, but by a sense of familial duty that had been systematically weaponized. The ultimate test of this faith was a ritual the diaries called the Bod Puja, modeled on the physical structure of a banyan tree. The positioning of the 10 hanging bodies was a direct imitation of those thick, aerial roots descending from the tree's branches. The final entries in Lalit's notebooks indicate that the family fully expected to survive the night. The diaries contained a specific, fatal promise. They instructed the family that at the exact moment the stools were kicked away, a miraculous force would manifest in the room to save them. The evidence reframes the entire event. This was an extreme exercise in trust that went tragically wrong at the moment of execution. The promised supernatural intervention never materialized. Instead, physics and gravity simply took their natural course. When the contents of the diaries leaked to the press, the sheer absurdity of the tragedy generated a chaotic media circus outside the house. Even today, the public remains divided. While psychological experts point to a documented contagion of the mind, many locals still attribute the tragedy to a paranormal force. Yet the clinical reality of what happened inside that house is more terrifying than any local ghost story. Insular family dynamics combined with unchecked mental illness to overwrite objective reality for 11 distinct individuals. It took no physical violence to organize their destruction. It required only words, trust, and the slow creep of a shared delusion. The most profound danger doesn't always arrive as an external threat. Sometimes a deadly psychological crisis can brew silently for years, right behind the closed doors of a seemingly happy home.